How's it going, guys? Peshcats here, and today we're going to be taking a look at the card of the day for this week for Is the Order a Rabbit, aka Gochiusa. So I'm going to go ahead and get right into it. So some of the cards this week are some pretty cool cards, but a lot of them are fairly ordinary, so we're going to be blowing through the more ordinary ones pretty fast. Now then, so we're going to start off with the 3-2 Chino, Maya, and Megumi, I think is her name. So the names are actually all combined on this card. So like it says Chimame, and it doesn't actually have any of their individual names on the card name. So let's get into what this does. So for every other blue character gets 500. On play, check top 3, add 1 to your hand, and drop the rest. And Climax combo with the Pants Climax. On attack, you pay 3 and deal X damage to your opponent, where X is the highest level of all your characters on the stage. And this gets 1,000 until the end of the opponent's next turn. And you need a full blue field in order to use that Climax combo. So this set is basically being split up into like 3 different kinds of decks. So you have the mono blue deck, which is going to be the kind of deck that you play this one in. You're going to have a yellow green deck, which is Sharo and Chia, and you're going to have a like mono red deck, which you can possibly throw in some Chinos, which is going to be the Rabbit House deck. So this one's going to be fitting into the mono blue one. It gets 500 power for every other blue character on your field, and it's also only able to use its Climax combo if your field is full blue. So cool things about this card is that it's going to be able to dig for its own Climax. If there's some sort of like blue anti-damage event, then it's going to be able to dig for that as well, but we haven't seen anything like that yet. Downside of this card is the cost for its Climax combo is 3 stock and no discard, so that's like extremely large cost. You have to commit 2 to play the card, and you have to commit another 3 to use the combo. So that means if you want to use 2 copies of this, then you're going to need to start your attack phase with like, or no, you're going to need to start your turn with like, what, 8? You need to start with 8 stock. And then that means you won't be able to play any other cards or effects that cost stock for the rest of the turn. So now as far as how much you're burning for, this card does count itself for the like highest level on the field. So it will always burn for at least 3 unless the set has a level like minus effect, where you can give your own characters -1 level so that you can burn for less damage. So if this deck does come up with something like that, then you can use this for more precise burns. But as of right now, it's only able to burn for 3 or more. And this is the only double R that we've seen so far. Frankly, I'm not too excited about this card. So yeah, that's just it so far. So let's move on to the next one. We have a level 3 Cocola. I think this card's actually really, really strong, and it's only a rare. So it's an early summon if you have the level 0 Brainstorm Cocola in your clock, which I'll get to in a sec. And on play, you salvage a Rabbit House or Bread character, and Climax combo on attack, you drop 1 to salvage 2, and it gets 1,000 until the end of the opponent's turn. Now the Climax for the Climax combo is a Split Soul, which is something that we have not seen since Tulovru second set. So Split Soul is you draw a card, and then you choose up to 2 characters on your stage, and until the end of the turn, those get 1 soul apiece. So I think Split Soul's like pretty much perfect for this card, because you're able to maintain a lot of card advantage, and at the same time, the Climax combo lets you do a lot of hand fixing. So this entire like combo just like screams like +1s all over the place, because you play it and it replaces itself, so that's +1. If you use a Climax combo, then that is another +1. The Climax replaces itself, so you're not even like minusing on that. So like just because of how much advantage this card is able to generate by not only being put into play but also using its combo, it's the kind of card that like you don't want to clock the turn that you play it, because then you're probably going to have like way too many cards in your hand, but you're going to want to clock the level 0 Brainstorm so that you can get the early play in the first place. So I think that this is the kind of card that's going to let you spam a lot of stuff at level 1 and not really care too much, because you're just going to get it all back once you hit level 2. And yeah, so I think this card's really strong. I'm pretty excited to try using this. Now next we have the Brainstorm, which is the card that you need in Clock to early summon. It's literally just a Brainstorm. So it's pay 1, tap this, mill 4, and for each Climax that you mill this way, you get to salvage a Rabbit House or a Bread character. So it's just a vanilla Brainstorm. I don't think we've seen one of those since Telovru 1, although feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on that. I believe the Nana Brainstorm was the last vanilla Brainstorm that we've seen. You're pretty much going to want to play this as an auto 4 of in any Rabbit House deck, just because like you want it in play because it's a Brainstorm, and at the same time you also want it in your hand so you can clock it for the early summon that I just showed you. So just a very, very solid Brainstorm. The fact that it doesn't have a second effect doesn't really hurt the card too much. I mean, like I said, if you lose at level 1 and you're like losing a lot of cards, just like spam the 3-2 and then suddenly you have all your cards back. So pretty good. I'll take it. And up next, moving on to Tuesday's cards. So this is a 3-2 Sharo. So Tuesday we had yellow and green cards, so Sharo and Chia. So far we haven't had a double R revealed for either of those colors. And we haven't had a double R revealed for red yet either. So I'm pretty excited to see what kind of effects we'll see on those double Rs. Now anyways, this 3-2 Sharo is a pretty basic card. It's almost like something that I would expect to see in a trial deck, to be totally honest. So it's an on-play heal. If all of your characters are Sharo or Chia, it gets 1,000, so it becomes a 10-5. And then during her attack, your opponent can't play backups. So the problem with this card is that they can still play events, so you're still going to get wrecked by things like anti-damage or rest counters. Now, what I really hope is that there's some sort of like 2-1 Climax combo that lets me bring this 3-2 out early. So that way I can heal while at level 2, and at the same time I can really make use of the card's anti-backup ability so that the opponent can't like anti-change this card. Like that's something I think would be really cool, and I hope they put into this. As far as their traits, for yellow and green, they have traits like completely different from the red and blue traits. Sharo's traits are Fleur de la I can't even. Don't ask me to pronounce French. I can't do it. And the other trait is Honor Student. So the Fleur de whatever, that's the shop that she works at. So all the characters are going to have their primary trait be whatever shop that they're working at in the show, and the second one's going to be a more like personal trait. So yeah, I think this Sharo is very basic. I really hope there's something more exciting to play than this. Okay, next up we have the Chia Brainstorm. This is a level 0 rare. So up to once per turn, when you use a startup, you can give 1,000 power to a Sharo or Chia until the end of the turn, and it's a clock swap Brainstorm. So the first ability is really nice. It procs off the Brainstorm itself, so you use the Brainstorm, you give 1,000 power. Cool stuff. And during your opponent's turn, if you play a counter, you can give 1,000 power as well. So if yellow-green gets like a 1-0 2k counter, then this card's going to be actually nuts, because that's going to be like 3k power. But I expect them to just get a 1,500 vanilla counter, so that's not completely ridiculous. The fact that the Chia is a clock swap Brainstorm's not that great, because clock swap, it's much more limited in the targets that you can choose from, because you can only choose from your clock. And if you're at like 1-1 or 1-2, then you only have like 1 or 2 cards to choose from. And if worst case scenarios, you're at 1-0 or 2-0, and you have literally nothing in your clock. So the clock swap literally does nothing. In fact, you can even like damage yourself for 1 with a clock swap Brainstorm, because you can't pick up anything, but you still have to clock the top card of your deck. So it's whatever. I think the first ability definitely helps that out a lot. Otherwise, it would be a much more mediocre card. Okay, next up we have the 2-0 event Doping. Choose a Sharo character, and this turn it gets the coffee trait and plus 8,000 power. So, you know, you gotta have that caffeine for the Hyper Sharo. Like I said before, if the 3-2 healer does have some sort of way to play it early at level 2, then this card is going to be pretty funny to combo with that, because you can make it into an 18-5 that your opponent can't use backups on. So they can't use an anti-change on it, and you're pretty much guaranteed to kill anything. Like, you can even get over Colossal Titan after a Climax combo by using this Climax. Or not this Climax, this event, which I think would be pretty funny. Personally, I don't think the card is actually practical to be used, so I probably won't be using it. If it does have like an event bond, maybe. But that would be really, really insane if this got an event bond, because that would be like pay 1, give 8,000 to a Sharo. I don't think that's fair. Next up, we have the other event that we've seen for the yellow-green deck, which is Florist Advertisement. So if you have 4 or more Climax in your waiting room, and this is after you pay for the card's cost, so let's say you like have 2 Climax in the waiting room, you play this event, you pay out 2 Climax, and then now you have 4 Climax, so the event works. This turn, all of your 3/2 Sharo, so the healer I showed you earlier, and all Rabbit Ears Parka Chia, which has not been revealed, get 3,500 power, and they gain an ability until the end of the turn, which is when it attacks, you mill 2, and if those 2 cards are a yellow card and a green card, you burn 1. So, based on what we've seen so far, we can't really call this card that great, because the 3/2 Sharo is just like, it's just a healer. It's like, whatever. But we haven't seen the Chia that this card works with yet, so I think it has a lot of potential based on what the 3/2 Chia is. For example, like I have written here, if 3/2 Chia is a clock shooter, then this card actually might become really, really good, because you're giving 3,500 power to a clock shooter, and at the same time you're giving it a possible burn ability. If you're applying this ability to like multiple clock shooters, then the card's value goes up a lot. So we'll have to keep a lookout for whatever Rabbit Ears Parka Chia is before I can make any further judgment. Moving on to Wednesday's cards. We have some blue cards. They're pretty boring. Like this 1/0 Chino. It's a 1/05K on play, gets 500 times the number of blue characters. Mono blue will probably play this because it's a good beater. Outside of that, there's nothing exciting about the card. Next up, we have a 1/0 that I personally don't like as much. So it's a 1/0 Maya and a 0/0 Megami. So the Maya is a 1/0/5/5, and if you have 3 or more other blue characters, it becomes a 6/5. So pretty good. The downside, I don't think, is that great. If you have 1 or less characters in your back row, this card can't even attack. So if your low-level game gets like completely like crapped on and you draw like crap, then this card is just going to work against you. There's absolutely a possibility that this card might not be able to attack if you just draw like that horribly. So you definitely want to watch out using this card. The Megami, though, is a bonder to the 1/0 Maya, so that can fill in one of your slots on the field to make sure that your Maya is able to not only get the 1k boost, but also to attack. And on play, you get to top check, leave it on top or bottom. So decent utility. Bonder's fine. Bond target, personally, not so much. I don't think it's that great. If blue doesn't have a better beater, then this will probably see use. But we also have to look out for a level 0 Climax combo, or a level 1 Climax combo for blue. Moving on to today's previews, so I'm going to start with the 0/0 Rize. So this is basically apples from Madoka. So it's a pay 1 bond to the 1/0 Cocola that you can see right there, and all copies of that 1/0 Cocola get 1,000 power. So literally apples effect. So next we move on to the Climax combo itself. So on the card of the day page, like the Cocoa appears before the Rize. So at first I looked at the Cocoa and I thought I was getting like extremely baited, and then I saw the bonder and I was like, okay, so this 1/0 Cocoa is not nearly as bad as I thought it was at first glance. So it's a 1/0/4/5, but it becomes a 5/5 if you have 3 or more other Rabbit House or Bread characters, which hopefully is not too hard. And it has a Climax combo. When it attacks, if you have the stock Soul Climax and all your characters are either Rabbit House or Bread trait characters, you choose up to 1 character from your waiting room and salvage it, then discard 1, and this gets 3,000 power until the end of the turn. So not even taking the Climax combo into account, if you just play this like apples, then it goes on the same like power line as the apples combo. So assuming you can meet the first position, it becomes a first condition, not position. What am I talking? Assuming you can meet the condition in the first ability, this becomes a 5/5 vanilla. And then having 1 Rize Bonder is going to make it a 6/5, and having a second Rize Bonder is going to make it a 7/5, which is already pretty good for a character that's basically coming into play for 0 stock, even though you bond into it. And the cool part about this is that it has a Climax combo on top of it, which lets you not only filter your hand, but get 3k power so you can burst over really big cards. Now, problem with this deck is that, or with this card, is that if you're playing against a meta deck, specifically like Tuluvru plays anti-salvage, and this card completely gets shit on by anti-salvage, because the salvage is not mandatory, but the discard is mandatory. So if you choose not to salvage a character, you still have to discard a card, which is pretty rip. I think that honestly, you could probably play this card without the combo because of the Rize Bonder. And if another good level 1 combo shows up for the Rabbit House deck, then you could probably just play that instead of the Stock Soul, but you can still play this with the Bonder for the level 1 game. I think the Split Soul combo on the level 3 is just like way better anyway. So if we get like Split Soul level 3 combo and then like a level 3 Gate combo, like a burn combo that you would actually use in the Rabbit House deck, then you might just see this card being used as an apples. The last card for this week is the 0/0 Mocha, and it has only red trait because she doesn't work in Rabbit House. So she has 2 abilities. First one is once per turn when using Act, you can give a character 500, and the second ability, which is an Act, rest this, choose one of your characters, and it gets 1,000 power until the end of the turn. So she's able to proc her own ability by tapping herself. You can give 1k somewhere, and then you give 500 somewhere else, or you can just give 15 to something, which I think is pretty cool. It's a solid back row card, and the Brainstorm is also rest itself, so you can have both of them in your back row, and you can use both their abilities in the same turn, which I think is pretty nice. Now, depending on whether or not you're using the Apples combo, the Apples Rize Cocola combo, you might not even have room for this in your back row. So it all really depends on what we see for level 1 game for red. So like if they come with like an unreverse salvage combo, so something like Marika level 1, then this card definitely rises in value because you're able to give power buffs to your characters that want to reverse the opponent's stuff. So yeah, I think I would say the best card of the lot out of the lot for this week, definitely the 3/2 Cocoa early drop. I think that card is the best card out of all the ones that we've seen. I think probably the worst one is like the 1/0 Maya, the blue card. So there's my thoughts on some of the cards for this week. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next week. Bye.